All right, everybody. Thank you for watching the previous one. If you didn't, check it out. Today, I'm going to go over the wild card standings and division standings playoff race for baseball. Um, so, I think the National League wild card is going to be crazy. So, let's see how um, everything plays out. Um, that's not to say it's really early. So, the wild card races and whatnot and the division races are still well in swing. Um, Now, I really think only the Braves and Dodgers probably have their divisions under wraps right now. Um, the Central divisions are middling and real tight races there, so we can look and see what we've got, dig into that. But without further ado, let's start with the AL East. Um, it's going to be crazy because they're going to have three teams in the playoffs more than likely if everything holds up the way it is. Um, right now, they have the first wild card and third wild card, as well as their division leader, which has the best record in baseball right now, or best record in the American League. Sorry. Um, so, um, Baltimore, they have a 2-game lead over the Rays. Do they keep up and keep the division under wraps? I think they can. They have one of the deepest bullpens in baseball. You got to go through Ynier Cano and Felix Bautista to try and win a game. Granted, I know what just happened with the Astros. So, everybody has a bad outing. So, it is what it is. Um, but with that said, Tampa Bay is also going to be without Shane McClanahan probably for the rest of the year. So, can they keep up and stay in there? I know they got 5 games on the last wild card spot before they fall out, but that's not a huge lead. Um, Obviously, they're not comfortable until they get the clinch beside their name in the standings. So that's going to be a rough couple months for them trying to stay there. I do think they do it though. I don't know. I don't think anybody else is going to do it and get in over them. Um, but yeah, Toronto. I think they have a good enough team. Um, they got Paul DeYoung to replace Bo Bichette while he's on the IL. Uh, but they've got a good offense. They've got a good starting rotation. Uh, I don't know where their bullpen stands, but so we'll see how that comes down there in the year. Um, but the Yankees and Red Sox, neither one of them are going to make the playoffs. I don't believe so. Both of them are 4.5, 5 games out of the playoffs. So it's you they do have a lot of question marks for them. The Yankees, they need a rotation outside of Garrett Cole that can kind of keep them in contention. Their bullpen is really good, and their offense is middling as well. So they've got to be able to score some runs. I mean, the run differential is only +6. They've got to get those runs in. Um, that's probably one of the lowest ones for a team above 500. So let me scroll and check that real quick. Outside of Milwaukee and Cincinnati, who have negative run differentials, Arizona's 500. So, but they've got a negative one as well. So, I believe they are the only team above 500 with a positive run differential, outside of the ones that have significantly higher run differentials. Oh, and the Marlins too, which are negative. Well, Milwaukee because they have no Milwaukee's -1. So yeah, they they got a lot of work to do if they want to win. They're gonna have to get on a tear with everybody to get in. And then the Red Sox are just nothing really sticks out to me for them. Um, so I don't think they're gonna get in. The AL Central, home to 3 of the worst 4 records in the American League. Probably also 3 of the worst 4 records in baseball. Um, I think Kansas City is second behind Oakland, and then the White Sox are third, and then Detroit's like 6th. So in the bad standings. So Cleveland, Minnesota, the only 2 ones that are really vying for a chance at a playoff spot. Minnesota sitting at 60 and 55, 5 games above 500, where Cleveland is 55 and 59, 4 games below 500. So there are 4.5 games separating those 2 teams. I don't believe they are going to change in the standings. I do think Minnesota is a much better team. Cleveland, I think, stood pat, really. They traded Rosario for Syndergaard and then didn't really do anything. So I think their push is going to be something where they go for next year. They could have been a little more aggressive trying to run it this year. But again, I can't fault them for sticking with their guns like they usually do. Then we go on to the AL West. We got the Rangers with the 3rd best record in the American League, behind the Rays and Orioles. They can be the 2nd best record here pretty soon for that side of baseball. I do think they will pass the Rays, with the Rays losing McClanahan, so we'll see how that plays out. Do they catch Baltimore? Maybe. I like their starting pitching a lot more than Baltimore's, so we'll see what they do. Houston right now sitting at 2nd wild card over Toronto and behind Tampa. They could very well win the division. They're getting Verlander back, so they could make a strong push. They're only 3 games back of the division. So we'll see how that plays out. Obviously, the Astros are perennial contenders for the last essentially 7 years-ish. Ever since they got back on track from their tanks and rebuilding years. Seattle, 6-game winning streak right now, 8-2 in their last 10. That putting them 9 games above 500, 2 games out of a wild card, 6.5 back of the division. If you would have told me a week ago at the trade deadline that the Mariners would have traded their closer and then went on a run to put them 2 games out of wild card spot, I wouldn't have believed you. With that said, though, they didn't really sell. They traded a reliever, and then not really anything else. Their offense stayed in pat. Their starting pitching stayed pat. So that's going to be they're a good team, you know. Them going on this run probably hurt a lot of chance the Angels had with it, because that's now another team the Angels have to pass after losing 6 or 7 straight after the trade deadline, after being hard buyers. They're a game under 500 now after, like I said, losing 6 or 7. So they were sitting real nice before the trade deadline. And then Oakland is Oakland. So on to the National League. We've got the NL East. We have the Braves firmly in the division lead, 10.5 games up over Philadelphia. More than likely winning the division. I don't see them faltering. They're getting Max Fried back, so they're going to be well on their way to probably the number 1 seed in the National League. I don't think the Dodgers will get up there. The Dodgers have a ton of talent, but a lot of it is hurt, like Dustin May. So I think it's really the Braves' number 1 seed to lose, their division to lose. We'll see how the playoffs go if it's their National League to lose. Then you got the Phillies splitting a doubleheader with Washington yesterday after Friday's game or Monday's game got delayed for rain. But they're 3 games in the wild card spot right now, so I don't know if they're the 1 or the 2 wild card. So we'll see how that plays out. Miami, they are half a game out of the wild card, so that's an interesting spot to be in. They kind of renovated their offense a little bit. They traded Garrett Cooper away. They got Josh Bell. I believe Bell homered in his first game with them. He wasn't really that great in Cleveland, so we'll see how that plays out. The Mets, the lowly New York Mets, selling away Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer. They're all but done this year, which brings a little joy to my face as a Nationals fan. But the Mets, I believe, are probably going to finish last in the National League East. They're a game and a half above Washington. Washington has played some really good baseball in their last month-ish or so, a little over a month maybe. We just finished our second sweep. We swept the Reds. And then we split one. I think we won 4 straight. And then we got the rubber match against the Phillies today. But the Mets, they traded away their 2 best starting pitchers. Senga's still there, so we'll see how he finishes out the year. If he's going to be on an innings limit for his first year in Major League Baseball after pitching professionally in Japan for years. So we'll see if they kind of shut him down or if they just let him run loose, try and get him acclimated some more, or if they try and protect him, cut down on his innings and whatnot. They traded Robertson, so their bullpen isn't going to be as good. They still have Brooks Raley, though, so and I think Adam Ottavino as well. Both of them are some quality relievers. But like I said, they're a game and a half above Washington. They're playing for nothing. They have to get a top 6 pick for them to not lose 10 spots in the draft. Right now, if Washington passed them, I believe they would be 6th, 5th or 6th. So that's an interesting thing to keep a watch on. Washington can't pick in the top 10. Top 10. So if they lose, it's really for nothing. They don't get a better chance at a top 10 pick. If their pick is in the top 10, they'll be picking 11th, I believe, based on the CBA. But with that said, Washington's playing really good baseball. I don't know how they'll play it out here. If they go to a 6-man rotation with Joe Adon carrying 5.2 perfect innings against the Reds, and it was supposed to be a spot start. Trevor Williams is kind of falling out now. He started out the year as a quality starter, but I don't know if he's going to be in the rotation much longer. If we relegate him to kind of like the Corey Abbott fireman role, but Gore and Gray. Gore's probably going to be shut down with an innings limit. Gray had the innings limit last year, so he's probably going to be good to go. Patrick Corbin's going to take the ball every 5 days and pitch 5 innings, whether he gives up none or 7. he'll be pitching 5 innings. So which is nice to have sometimes. Um, then Jake Irvin is probably going to have an innings limit. I don't know where he's at right now, but Washington will be um, interesting to watch the rest of the year. um, then we've got the National League Central. This is going to be an interesting race. The Brewers, -1 on the run differential, but a game and a half up over the Cubs and Reds. I think those two are actually tied for the third wild card. Now that I'm looking at the rest of the National League, with Philadelphia +3 for the wild card and San Francisco +3 for the wild card. So the National League Central is going to be an interesting race. We'll see how that plays out down the stretch. Chicago went hard by buying in on Candelario and keeping their players like Stroman and Cody Bellinger. Cincinnati, they needed a starter. I don't think they got it, unless I'm missing somebody off the top of my head. Then you got, I already went over the Cubs, but Milwaukee, if they made a move, it was a minor one. I don't remember. Carlos Santana, yeah, for first base. I'm not sure who's going to win this race. Obviously, Milwaukee's been there before. The Cubs are first time they've been in a playoff race for a little bit. Cincinnati, first time they've been in a playoff race in a while. So Cincinnati's got some real young, exciting players, but their starting pitching is going to have to hold up. So we'll see how that goes. Then you got Pittsburgh and St. Louis. I wouldn't sleep on St. Louis either. Their starting pitching hasn't been great, but they also have a pretty deep lineup. They have Tyler O'Neill, Goldie, Arenado, Tommy Edman. Wilson Contreras has been playing great lately, at least offensively. So, I think they're not a team to sleep on. They're playing spoiler just like every other team that's out of a race. So that'll be a key point to watch on down the stretch here. Cardinals aren't used to being out of a playoff race. It's probably the first time in 2 decades they've been out of a playoff race. But they still got guys that want to win. And obviously everybody there's kind of playing for their futures. So I wouldn't really sleep on them being just a bad team and an easy win, Then we get to the National League West. You've got the worst team in the National League and the Colorado Rockies. 13.5 out of the wild card, 21.5 out of the division. Then you've got the team that nobody seems to figure out what the hell is going on with. Is the San Diego Padres. They're 5-5 in the last 10. They won like 3 games straight, and then they have lost their last 3. They are a really weird enigma this year, because they're like +61 on the run differential. They should be 63-51, which would put them in a wild card spot based on their expected win-loss record, based on their runs scored and runs allowed. But that's 4 games below 500. That's a 8-game difference for them. And they're 12 games out of the division and 4 games out of the wild card. That would put them 4 games up over the last wild card spot, which would actually put Philadelphia and San Francisco into a tie for the third wild card spot, 2 and 3, and kicking the Cubs and Reds out, with them being closer to the division than a wild card, which would make it even more crazier. But that would also probably take down those games probably to somewhere else. Arizona, They're sitting at 500, 57, 57, 10 games out of the division and 2.5 back, 2 out of a wild card. They've lost their last 7, which is crazy. Their starting pitching: Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly. Then their young guys that they've brought up. Their bullpen, they traded away Andrew Chafin to the Brewers. Forgot about him for the Brewers earlier. And they brought in Paul Sewell from the Mariners. They have a good offense, great hitters park, but they're game below 500 at home. They're a game above 500 on the road. You know, I think they're going to be a prime candidate to be the 81-81 team. But it's a weird year for them because a lot of people didn't really kind of think of them to be a winner coming into the year. I mean, obviously that's Zach Gallen, Christian Walker, Ketel Marte's coming back to where he can play. They've got their outfielders, Corbin Carroll. Corbin Carroll on fire, rookie of the year lock to start the first half of the year. And he's kind of fallen down a little bit here recently, the last that I checked on his stats. So, can he come back up to where he was playing before? Or is he going to be in a little bit of a second half slump after kind of setting the world on fire? But the Diamondbacks are negative 19 in run differential. I don't think they're going to make a playoff push. But again, 2 games out of a wild card. All it takes is a good stretch here. They can't be losing 7 games straight and going 2-8 in their last 10 if they want to make the playoffs. I would love to see a Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly 1-2 punch for a 3-game series in a wild card. Because I think those two could go toe-to-toe with pretty much anybody's 1-2, given the chance. It's just a matter of can their offense and bullpen hold up. They did need some bullpen help. They got Sewell, who was really good for the Mariners. But I don't know if trading away Chafin was the greatest, Then we got San Francisco Giants, 62-52, 5 games behind the Dodgers, and then 3 games up on the wild card cut line. They're just there to me. They brought in their GM a couple years ago. They had their playoff push 2 years ago. They have really good numbers. I love their park. I need to go out there one day and see it. Maybe if you guys get this shit blown up and I can get some money, I can go out there and monetize this on YouTube. But their park has been one of my favorites for a while. But with that said, they've managed to put together a good squad pretty much every year with their data analysis. Almost like the Rays of the West, I feel like. They have a lot of money to spend here, too. So this offseason, I would not count them out on any key free agents. They could really, turn some heads with that. Like maybe even getting an Ohtani so he can hit some nukes out into McCovey Cove. But with them sitting right there, I think they're a good enough team with a plus 27 run differential. They'd probably be 2 games worse based on their run differential. But with that said, they are right there at it. Baseball, you can go either way sometimes. But 3 games up isn't a lot. There's a lot of teams vying for wildcard spots in the National League. 2 of them are tied for last spot right now. All it takes is those 2 teams running up, Brewers falling down like they probably should with their run differential. And then boom, you got the Cubs, Reds in, and then Milwaukee out. And then you've got 2 wild cards sitting in the National League Central. And then you got the Phillies, who are probably going to make it. And then the Giants, are just going to be in that same spot. The Phillies have more top end talent than the Giants do, but there's also that cohesive unit of San Francisco just playing like they do. Um, then we've got the Dodgers, best team in the National League West, 5 games up, 20 games above 500. It's probably their division to lose. Plus 120 on the run differential. Do I think they lose the division? Nope. Probably going to be the 2 seed behind Atlanta. I don't necessarily think they are a bad team, despite their injuries that they've had with some of their players, and Urias not having as great a year as he could. So, they all it takes is getting hot at the right time. They could win again. To the wild card though, like I wanted to go over, uh, the American League, they have a lot of top end guys there. You've got 3 teams within 5 games of the last wild card spot, and then the Angels, who are probably going to get closer to that mark. I hope at least. And then you got bad teams. You got the 4 bad teams, and then Cleveland, who's probably going to relegate down there. I don't see much of the AL wildcard changing up, unless Tampa just completely falls apart without McClanahan. Seattle making it after losing Robbie Ray would be kind of a pleasant surprise to me. Their rotation is young and deep and good. They've got a lot of young talent on that rotation. So I'm not really kind of surprised by it, but it's not something that I thought would have been happening. But 2 of those teams are the Yankees and Red Sox, which, like I said, I don't think either one of them's going to do it because they have to make 9 games up on Tampa to get in. Toronto, I think they're good enough that they're going to kind of maintain that gap, if not go up a little bit, and Houston's going to keep going. And they still got a battle within each other for the rest of the year. I think Baltimore's mostly done with their division games, so that's a good thing for them, but I don't know how they fare against each other with like the Rays, Blue Jays, Yankees, and Red Sox between each other there. So then we go to the National League. The National League is where I really wanted to talk about it, because the Rockies last in the National League, but 13.5 out of wild card. Granted, a lot of these teams are around 500, so it makes it a little bit more of a difficult play, whereas you've got the Mariners 9 games above 500, but they're 2 games out of the playoffs. All it takes in baseball is getting hot at the right time. As we saw with the Phillies last year making a run to the World Series, the Nationals running from being 12 games below 500, 2 World Series champions in 2019. All it takes is getting hot at the right time. Right now, we've got the Braves, Dodgers, and Brewers as the division winners. Then we've got the Phillies, Giants, and Cubs in the wild card spot. The Reds are tied with the Cubs. The Cubs have it on winning percentage because their .518 winning percentage is better than the Reds' .517. So then we've got Miami half a game back, 3 games above 500, at 59 and 56. Arizona at 500, 2 games out, and San Diego 4 games out. So the bottom 5 teams are starting at 7.5, going down to 13.5. So that's an interesting playoff race shaping up there. San Diego, I hope they make it. They've got some players I love out there. They had Craig Stammen for a while, Nationals legend. They've got Juan Soto out there. So I hope they can keep it up. I would love to see them make it, just so they can try and keep their run going. Um, I know, extremely disappointing year so far. But like I said, they should be about 8 games better than their record actually is. With that said, if they get on a run and play like they should be playing and get to the record they should be at, that could turn this playoff race upside down. Because if they can get, they're only 7 games back of the top wild card. They get there, they play the Brewers, Reds, or Cubs in the first round of the playoffs. If they get there and they play the Brewers, toss up. The Brewers have some really good starting pitching. Don't get me wrong, Padres do too. I'd slightly lean towards the Brewers and their rotation. Offensively, this is definitely going to San Diego if they can actually hit like they should. Um, but one thing that doesn't fare well for San Diego is they're 0-10 in extra innings. Like that's a killer. They're 6-18 in one-run games, and that's not going to cut it. You know. But again, all it takes is someone starting to hit with runners in scoring position, because they're probably one of the worst teams with runners in scoring position hitting. So that's gonna, that's one key team to watch there. They were in the race last year, they made it, and they went on a run. For the most part, most of the team is about the same. Do they do that again? You know, and if they do hit that mark again after slumping most of the year, I'd watch out for them, because they could very well make a run kind of like the Phillies did last year, in my opinion. Um, but, you know, most of these other teams are very inexperienced with the playoff run. The Phillies obviously did it last year, and the Giants did it 2 years ago. At least to get to the playoffs, not necessarily a run to the World Series like the Phillies did. The Cubs haven't made the playoffs in a couple years, so this is their first time being in a playoff race for a couple years with most of these guys on the roster. Cincinnati, the same thing. Most of these guys are young rookies anyway, so they've got to kind of get to a point where they're comfortable in these must-win games. They're just playing right now. They're going to be they're going to be a good team for a little bit with some of this youth movement that they've got coming in, but they do need to get some frontline starting pitching. Do they develop those guys into that, or are they just going to kind of be there? Same thing with Miami. Miami made the playoffs in 2020, the only time they've made it since they won the World Series in 2003, I believe. So a lot of these guys may have been on that team back then. I know they traded Garrett Cooper to the Padres. So are they going to be in a spot to keep pushing? Are they going to be comfortable with these must-win games? Because I know 2020 was just an outlier for most people. Then you got Arizona, same thing. First time they've been to the play or been in a playoff race in a while. I like their rotation with Gallen and Kelly. If they can go toe to toe, I think they can go toe to toe with pretty much anybody. Anybody's 1-2 in the playoffs. So I don't like their bullpen. So then San Diego, and then you got the 5 teams that aren't going to make the playoffs, but it's wishful thinking for some of them. 11 games below 500 for the Mets and Pirates, 14 below for the Nationals, 16 for the Cardinals, and 20. Nope. Yeah. And then 23 games below 500 for the Rockies. With that said, all it would take is, they're not going to do it, but one win streak like the Athletics went on 7-game, 8-game win streak. Cuts your chance, or that like doubles your chance to make the playoffs right there, in my opinion. Because just say you go 8-0 and everybody else goes 4-4, like the Nationals, that cuts 4 games off. That puts you at 5 games back. Granted, it's not gonna happen, but it puts you 4 games back in the playoffs over a span of a week and a day, more than likely, or a week and 2 days, with a day off included in there. So that would be uh, wishful thinking for any of the fans of those 5 teams. I don't think any of those are going to happen. Nationals still have Trevor Williams and Patrick Corbin pitching every 5 days. The Mets just traded away their 2 best starting pitchers, so they're going to have to fill in with people from a lackadaisical farm system. The Cardinals could put together a winning streak like that. They were pretty good in late April, May, I believe. After starting out horrendous and then turning back to horrendous after that little bit of stretch there where they played good baseball. And the same thing with the Rockies. The Rockies are trying to find something. It almost feels like they're, at least on their major league side, trying to throw shit at the wall and see if it sticks for a little bit. I do know they traded Crone and Grichuk, so they've got a little more youth guys coming in. So, the Pirates, they have Mitch Keller going, and they traded Rich Hill. So I'm not sure what their rotation looks like. I do know they have the all-star David Bednar, and he could be a good piece. But I think their offense kind of lackadaisical, especially with O'Neal Cruz out. Like, him getting hurt kind of changed the entire outlook on their season. Add him in and just say he plays to like a 3 WAR or something, and then you got 3 or 4 games up over where you're at right now. Just say 54 and 59. We're 4.5 games out of a wild card spot right there. So that really kind of, I don't want to say killed their season, but it severely injured it. But I will say, like the last thing here, I wanted to go over the National League wild card race right now because as it stands, it's wild. You got 7 teams that could make a play for it. Padres is probably the last team that I'd say would be able to make a run for it. So, you know, but with that said, you got all these teams here. All but one team's within 10 games of a wild card spot. We've seen the Braves come back from 10.5 over the Mets, or 10.5 under the Mets at this point. That could change a lot of, turn a lot of heads. But, that's going to take kind of a severe choke from not only a team in a wild card spot, but several teams in between as well. Because they have to play like 500 ball, and the other team has to play like 600 or 800 ball, somewhere in that area, depending on which one we're looking at. We still got 50 games left. I don't think just win 4 out of every 5 games or something like that. And then boom, you're right there. You go on an 8-game winning streak, and then you're right there at it, like I said earlier. Yeah, I'm gonna close that out, saying thank you guys for watching. Check it out. Check out my other videos on here. I'm gonna try and keep doing this. If you guys got any recommendations that you want me to go over, just let me know. Right now, I'm mostly doing baseball. I might do some football here over the once football starts. So we'll see how that goes. Like I said, I do want to kind of start doing this more. If you guys would check it out. Um, I'm going to try and put a video together with this one, at least with pictures. Um, so I do appreciate any of you guys that watch this. Like I said, have a conversation with me. You can follow me on uh, most social media at K_N_player. Um, I'm going to try and get a logo for this at some point. I might just put that up for some videos if I ever do get one made. So, but yeah, I want to thank you guys for checking me out. Um, and I'm going to let you guys go on about your day. So, see y'all later.